So we were on a safari in that trip. So we had gone to South Africa, then we had come to Mauritius, and then this part was the Mauritius part, and the South Africa part was. I literally had to put a patch whilst elephants were literally over there. We put a patch in to just randomly restore the servers to give us time to sort of figure out what the fuck is going on here. That was stressful.
And that didn't cause any interruptions in service to the game because there's many servers handling traffic for that game.
But they didn't know behind the scene. But like the place of...
They just so commit coming in from Zimbabwe.
They don't see any. They don't see any.
We don't let them see the origin of the work.
They don't see any of this.
Yeah, otherwise they would block it really quick.
Yeah, that was insane.
Most infrastructure companies in gaming are invisible. That's by design, but every now and then one comes along that quietly becomes the backbone of an entire generation of games, and I think Heroic Labs is that kind of a company. But the real interesting part is the story behind the company, because typically they don't unfold in a straight way. There's usually moments of doubt when the whole things feel like it could collapse. So Heroic Labs has been here for 10 years. Was there a moment when you thought you were not going to make it?
Probably the switch to open source is the most existentially perilous, I guess. But there's many, many small moments along the way.
And that's an interesting part. So switch to an open source. So typically, SaaS companies are not open source. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so when we started, we weren't open source either. We modeled ourselves after a company that was another Y Combinator company from a previous batch, a company called Parse that had been acquired at one stage by Facebook. And they built tech that made it a lot easier for mobile developers to build apps that would scale on their infrastructure. And we thought that we would distribute our tech in a similar way, right? We spent a little bit of time leading up to that point trying to be a game studio. And then as we built up our tech, we thought that we could be better serving to an industry by building that tech in a way that could help every studio. So we shifted to that approach. We followed that model. But what we found was that when you live in a category of core infrastructure, that's how we think of what we do, your successful failure is intrinsically linked to the successful failure of the studio themselves, right? A bit like database tech. Whereas with most SaaS businesses, they tend to sit in an ancillary capacity to the core infrastructure of the company, like email sending or text messaging or pager duty for alerting. But when you are that intrinsic to the success of the studio itself, we realized we needed to shift our distribution model. So we became open source. That was a huge decision to make, and we lost customers while doing it.
Why was it so dangerous to switch to open source?
We weren't sure. I think because we were the very first one in this space, if it would have worked or not, if we were just giving away the secret sauce essentially for free. And there's different ways that you could think about open source companies. There are different sort of revenue models, like would be more heavy on the sort of a Red Hat model where it's like support related and personnel, like high on personnel, or would it be open core, or would it be like feature gated? Like how are we going to cut the cookie, as it were? We traveled as part of the research, let's go this way, to find out if the model that we had in mind would work or not. And there are stories that, we went to various customers to figure out where exactly we should shape the open source offering and how we could distribute it out. But I think ultimately we came to a conclusion that it has to be open source, and the main driver for it needs to be around adoption of the tech. That's the only way it can thrive on its own. And it has to be a separate thing almost from Heroic.
So you change your business model, which is, of course, a huge thing. You mentioned Y Combinator. So Can you walk me through the timeline? Like you start the company as 3 back-end engineers, very fundable combination. There's Y Combinator and there's a switch of a business model. So walk me through till you go to Y Combinator.
Okay, so we knew each other from university. We studied together. We studied computer science. We were, as you mentioned, engineers. And we went out into industry. We did what all good graduates do, is we worked, we were all London-based, so we worked in fintech in London. But we would catch up with each other all the time, most days in the week. We'd meet for lunch and
talk bad about bankers.
And tech and watch what the tech industry was doing, and we were just excited to figure out what we could build together. And that's what led us to look at game studios and gaming as a whole. We got into an accelerator program before Y Combinator, one in London. It wasn't a very good accelerator program. We struggled with the way that they approached what you should be doing to create a great product to fit a market. I think it's one of our final attempts at getting into an accelerator program.
We weren't really sold on the sort of the European way of thinking about
about business plans and thinking about fundraising through these investor networks that were kind of tax efficient vehicles for high net worth individuals. But you would watch the American system where they were raising capital from people that truly believed in making that technology work, at least at the angel level, and getting product market fit.
It sort of doesn't align in the sort of the tax efficient investor with the company success. Whereas the US side of things, because it's the sort of the money from that person coming in or that company coming in, it sort of aligns directly with the success of the company.
So the difference being like European investors, for them, this is financial vehicle as a part of their diversified portfolio.
One of the things.
And in the US, it's like, I believe in this. This could be the next big thing. I'm going to back you.
It's a bet.
That's what
it
felt
that
like
could
to
go
us.
big.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
We also worried in a kind of a purely numbers sense that it would hamstring us. Our view at the time was European investors demanded a much higher percentage for a much lower amount of investment.
Sounds super European.
And we worried that based on the roadmap we were kind of trying to figure out ahead of us in a SaaS model, we knew it'd be a fairly long road. We knew we'd probably need multiple rounds of investment. This was based on our plan at the time. And we worried that giving away too much too early would prevent us from following through on that.
So we applied. Andre and Mo pushed me to make sure that we applied to a couple more programs. We applied to Y Combinator as part of it. Then we got invited to interview. So Mo and I flew out to San Jose and then interviewed at Mountain View at the Y Combinator office. We did the interview. We did 2 interviews. We got into the summer 2015 batch, and then moving a couple of years after that. So we came out of the program, and that's when we gained a pool of customers, but realized, or at least believed, that we were providing our technology in the wrong way to the market. So that's why we took this large gambit of shifting into open source.
I think Chris jumped over some funny stuff because Mo was smiling. Like, what happened? Like, you fly to San Jose?
No, I mean,
we stayed in Airbnb for 3 months.
We stayed in Airbnb, but honestly, I think, Mishka, the story of actually even going to that 1 week alone was sort of eye-opening for us, because the place that we randomly chose to stay in this Airbnb, a dude from Google was also staying, and these 2 other guys were staying, I think, James and Matt.
James and Matt, I think the names were.
I think they were 17 and 19.
How old were you?
23, 24, 25.
Oh, old guy.
No, but that wasn't. But
Real
this was the
grandfather.
3rd company. This was the 3rd company.
Yeah.
And
Their
third company.
They'd
At 17?
done Minecraft hosting business that had gone really well.
And then they did a conferencing
They
Minecraft.
they ran a
other.
conferencing business that they took over.
I'm not doing it
to do with
justice, I
Minecraft.
apologize for that. The memory is amazing,
But they were lovely guys. Yeah.
lovely. I mean, the memory has stuck.
kids.
Yeah, but lovely guys. And the 3rd business was actually
Streaming platform, right?
streaming platform going against Twitch. This is before Twitch was bought by Amazon. They also tried to get into YC and whatnot. And we were like, holy Jesus Christ. Like these guys, like 17 and 19, like super, super clever and super humble guys. What happened is, like, in like 2 or 3 years, the company grew and grew and grew, and they sold to Microsoft. Beamer, and then became Mixer. Yeah.
Beam Pro or Beam, something like that. And it became Mixer. Yeah.
It became Mixer. And that was just like 6 days in California for us. And that was like one encounter. And then the people that we met during the interviews, Justin Kahn, Jessica Livingston,
Jeff Ralston,
just left impressions on us that even if he didn't get to YC, it was a good enough experience. Just
Like next level.
Just different to Europe way of thinking. They were like,
I
okay.
mean, to be fair, different to anything we'd ever done before as well.
Yeah.
It was just such a different experience for us all. Yeah.
And by that time, you left your jobs in the fintech sector.
Yeah, we had done.
Yes.
Just before that, we'd left our jobs to give it everything that we could. Like, give it the real push that it needed. Live off savings for as long as we could. and try to be ramen profitable as fast as we could. Yeah.
And Andre, you didn't go to Menlo. Was it Menlo Park or where were you?
Mountain View.
Mountain View.
I would have at the time. The timeline was too short for me to get a visa.
Oh, got it.
So I was there for the actual YC batch, but the interview was too quick after our application.
Yeah, he was on remote video with the laptop.
Yes, they
That
carried me on a
existed then?
laptop.
Yeah, that was part of the interview process.
On a VGA.
Yeah.
The early telepresence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about like how do you get to Y Combinator? Like what are the interviews like? And tell me about Y Combinator.
Okay. So the interview process itself, usually one interview. We had two. We found out afterwards why we had a second interview. The second interview was because they thought different group members, partners, would be better fit for mentoring us. So we'd actually interviewed twice, essentially the same interview twice with two sets of group partners. That was why we had been asked to stay back and interview again. But generally it's one interview, and then leading up to that, it's an application online. It's not a difficult application online, and you get shortlisted, invited to interview. Everything gets covered to take you out there and interview, and then you'll get told same day whether or not you make it.
And how long is the interview?
Gosh, the day for us was hours and hours and hours because there was a large gap between when we had to re-interview. But I think the whole thing is an hour's worth of time in the interview itself.
No.
It was,
I remember
but the
much
build-up,
less.
the build-up was quite a while though.
I mean, look, we were like almost like in this state of like,
Highly caffeinated, excited,
jet lagged, anxious.
it was really odd. But the first interview were like 5 people in the room with us, and they asked us quite condensed questions.
Was it about the business or about you personally?
Both, really. Both. I'm not sure they want to know that you have a good understanding of the business that you're going to go into, the market you're going to go into, but I also think they just want to get to know you because I think their philosophy is that a strong founder or a strong set of founders will find their way anyway. Yeah,
Exactly. That's what I would kind of assume because you're such an early stage. So they're expecting
there were
you to
companies
pivot.
there that had like teams of 30 people.
and had revenue, and this was
revenue.
almost
There were
like
Multiple million in ARR already, some of them.
Why are they in Y Combinator?
I think the network.
the network, I guess, access to investors in the
I mean,
US.
those were also, I think one of them was an Australian company. I think they might want to have a holding in the US or a footing in the US. So we did that interview at the first stage, and then we got told to go home or to wait. You get a phone call if you're in or an email if you're not in.
Yeah.
Same day. But like, we were like 11 o'clock, and the whole set started from like 8 or 9 or something like that. So
So from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah. It'd been a long day.
it's been a long day.
Wow.
So we were observing like people coming in, and they were all leaving. And then we were like, I think the first group, they were like, no, you guys gotta wait. And we were like, okay, Chris, what's happening here? We got told to wait, and then we didn't get told how long. So we were like, should we go get food? Can we go get coffee? We waited until 5, 6 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we got told, okay, so guys, everyone left, and we were like, okay,
Still waiting?
It's your turn. We go in, and right in front of us is Jessica and Justin and Jeff, and like Jeff is like tired. Like you can imagine, like the entire day he's been interviewing people, and the questions begin, and there are like very thorough, very, very good questions about the business, about us, about our chemistry, how we know each other. That was about, my memory at this point is about 20, 25 minutes, but I think maybe Chris is right.
I can't remember.
It's
that
not like
well.
Shark Tank.
No. It's not
far,
like
far,
Shark
far from
Tank
it.
or Dragon's Den or any of that stuff. No, not like that at all. Yeah.
And then we left, we went to see Matt and James at home, and then we got a phone call that, you guys are in. We didn't think we were going to make it. to be honest with you.
So then you fly back, pick up Andre,
And then fly back again.
And then fly
basically.
We had a
Yeah.
few weeks, I think,
Yeah, and then flew
before
back.
we had to
Yeah.
be there. Yeah.
We had like, a few weeks. And then that night that we got a phone call, Chris and I just sat down looking for Airbnbs to rent for the following month. Before
did you celebrate it?
Not big, really. I think we just
kind
wiped.
of feel like guys who don't celebrate much. Like these milestones. You're like, oh, next.
We've done a
let's
lot.
get to
We've done a
work.
lot of celebration.
done-
We've
we've
done a
done
lot of
our own
celebration. But at that moment, I think it was more like, okay, we better get this figured out because it's not like any of us knew anybody in the US that we can just bunk in until we figured out our way. It was like we were going to find somewhere to live, otherwise we won't have anywhere.
Y Combinator doesn't help with that.
Not really. No. We just jumped on Airbnb and we found somewhere. Yeah,
We got very lucky.
we got really lucky.
The guys, they were the first time Airbnb, so we got a good deal from them. Nice, lovely people. They ended up I think one of them was working on what we now know as Amazon Echo, like a sound engineer there.
At the time, yeah.
Like even
This
that
was
story of
2015, summer of 2015, yeah.
yeah.
Like booming tech.
Yeah.
Booming tech, yeah.
Moved to US in 2014. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was like a peak.
Yeah. It was a fun space to be in at that time.
Felt like everything was just going at like a light speed.
Yeah.
Optimistic.
Yeah, optimism, mass optimism. Yeah.
That's
We were
true.
optimistic.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true. So tell me something crazy about Y Combinator. Like what was it? Like how long is Y Combinator, and what are the most memorable things you have
3
from
months is the program.
3 months. Oh, wow.
3 months. We moved
legit.
it for 3 months.
Yeah.
We left everything behind. That's all. And then we stayed in this place. We cooked, cleaned, worked on the idea together.
We kind of put ourselves in I think a lot of startups do that go into the program. You put yourself in this strange bubble, because you've taken yourself away from everything that's normal life. You spend vast amount of hours of the day and night either working through problems for what you're trying to build or create, or trying to reach out to sell, or whatever it might be, because you've got this timeline, you've got this deadline to demo day, right? And that demo day moment is a make or break moment for the startup, for your business. And so we put ourselves in this huge, like intense working bubble for 3 months. And we only really gave ourselves, what was it, one weekend in the end?
1 weekend.
In the middle of it
We
all?
worked 6.5 days a week. So 8 9 a.m. to about 10, 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and then a half day on Sunday.
I wouldn't say that we did it because we intended to do it that way. It's just you're trying to get stuff done.
We were caught up in this
In the
hype as
fever
well.
of it
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Sounds like
Fever
a
of it.
Turkish work week. I'm sure I've talked to enough founders.
Yeah, we were just in this like focus to try and figure everything out. Yeah, definitely. And of course, like once we were in the batch and we were doing the dinners at Mountain View.
Yeah, so every Tuesday.
There'd be the Tuesday evening. There'd be group dinners. We'd have group sessions as well, where we would speak to the group partners and get advice and give other startups in our group advice on things that they might be struggling with. We just felt so far behind everybody else because, like you said, we had started to build a product. We had a basic website, but we had not much else. Whereas we suddenly found ourselves in a batch where most of the others in the group had revenue already. They might be larger teams.
Our mental state at the time was everyone is so far ahead. Objectively, that was not true.
Yeah.
There were many more that were even further behind than us. Some that completely pivoted to an entirely different business, no connection to what they'd gone into YC with. So objectively, we weren't that far behind, but it felt that way.
So adrenaline was up like 3 months straight.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
cortisol's on the high end.
Most definitely the stress hormone. Yeah.
Because you were just thinking that you're going to go on a stage and bomb in front of all the tech gods.
Essentially, yeah.
And they would be like, why are you guys even here?
Yeah.
But of all these, titans of industry that you only hear about.
Yeah. They're like,
Yeah.
well, time to go back to fintech.
Yeah.
It's like, that was basically the fear.
Pretty much, yeah.
We
Pretty
go back
much.
to London. And I think also, remember, time zones, because all our family members were in London at the time. So time zones to catch up with girlfriends and family, that allowed us sort of the latter part of the day to just focus on the business. 9, 10 a.m. afterwards, it's late in the UK at that time. Made us be able to focus, but also allowed us to just take one weekend away. I think Chris's now wife joined us for that weekend, and then we went to Lake Tahoe.
Nice.
We rented a car. And we drove
Beautiful.
there.
We stayed at a cabin where there was electrical fencing to prevent bears from getting in.
Remember, we
Sounds about right.
Yeah, which is about right, but we didn't know that was about right.
also we're like urban people from London. Like we don't talk about bears in London.
Yeah,
the
for
most we
you,
give is
bear is
foxes.
like a cuddly creature that eats honey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To be fair, we probably would have gone on a 2-night break in the desert if we had to. We were just so exhausted by then.
It was just to do something different. Yeah.
We needed a change.
How many
of pace.
weeks was that in? When you allowed yourself to take a
month
break?
before the end, I think.
A month before,
So 2
before
months
demo
of
day.
like 7 days a week work.
Yeah.
You'd be like, we've deserved a weekend.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That's a lie. We also went to a cinema once and we watched 2 movies back to back.
Back to back.
That was
what were the
exciting.
movies?
Oh,
The
man, there was-
Accountant was one of them.
The Accountant,
And Deepwater
number one,
Horizon.
with Ben Affleck.
And the
Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon.
The one about
The one about the oil rig.
with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen the clip.
Yeah.
That one first, and they were like,
It's
okay,
whatever was on.
Yeah. You're like, we need some more action.
The thing is, we really found
The American cinemas
those seats are perfect for sleep.
Oh yeah, so we just slept through it.
A little bit.
You didn't miss anything. I mean,
So yeah, but no, the Lake Tahoe trip was a welcome respite, but it was a bit eventful.
Eventful.
yeah.
So yeah, we booked a boat out onto the lake. Weather wasn't great for it
Listen,
in the end.
3 months we were there. It didn't rain once.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're at one weekend and we went to Lake Tahoe. And I don't know how.
But it is far away. Like, let's
Yeah,
be
it
honest.
is.
Like, these
Yeah.
are different
It was-
climates.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
about
One
a
is in the
6-hour
mountains.
drive.
It was
It
a
was a
6-hour
6-hour
drive.
Yeah, so you went to a totally different location, just to be clear. You weren't in Mountain View.
Well, I
You'd be
never-
like,
yeah, that's
how come
true.
the weather here is so different?
No, we thought it's going to be like summertime. It's going to be fine. So we rented the boat out and,
Weather was not great. It was quite choppy on the water.
yeah, it became quite choppy. And we had this person with us, this lady.
Yeah, one of the staff, she was driving most of the time. She gave us the opportunity to drive if we wanted to.
Yeah. And we felt, why not just, drive a boat at this point?
Yeah, it's a lake.
It's a lake.
Drive around a bit.
We're
Yeah,
not going
the
to
thing to
fall
do.
off there.
Yeah. So what was I?
I think
was somewhere
Andre
at the back
drove a
of the
little
boat.
bit, and then I took on.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Chris, do you want to
And
take
it's a
some?
slow boat, right? Not like a fast motorboat.
It was.
I mean, you could put the speed on.
speedboat,
It was a
got it.
speedboat. You could put the speed on, but we were not supposed to, right? You were in the middle of driving at one point.
And Chris was taking shots off
we
us or something.
caught some kind of wave, and it threw me to the side of the boat, and I dislocated my knee.
Fun.
Yeah. So I was in quite a bit of pain.
Yeah.
You didn't cry or didn't say anything. You were like,
Just in shock.
Just shock.
Yeah, it
Shock.
was
Just
probably
sitting
just
there.
shock. Yeah.
Just shock.
And so we made our way back to shore.
No, the boat died.
The boat
boat
died.
died,
The
yeah.
boat
Oh, okay.
died
The
boat died.
because the dead man switch had been knocked out of it, but we didn't know
That it
the
was like a
switch was
dead man
knocked
switch
out.
there.
The staff member, I can't remember her name, but she had to call another boat out to get to us.
That took about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you're there. You're lying in the on the floor.
yeah,
shell shock.
it was not quite the weekend away we were looking for. Yeah.
The boat died.
The boat died, and,
And
then
you
it
were there
started
2
raining,
hours.
and it became quite stormy. So it
And-
was like
Okay.
the boat was like going left and
Rocking,
right,
yeah.
rocking quite hard.
And you'd be like, this is one way to go.
Yeah, this is one way to experience
For
our
Chris.
weekend
I think
away in
me
Lake
and Andre
Tahoe.
were-
So we got back to shore eventually, and then the
Yeah, we
guys
lifted-
basically carried me. Yeah, carried me back to the cabin. I couldn't get comfortable, obviously.
Yeah,
It was-
with-
I mean, look, the bone was like right
Yeah,
here.
knee was just
was
out of alignment,
completely
yeah.
out of alignment.
Yeah.
Like your leg was broken. Let's put it that way.
it was in a bad way.
There's no way you could put any pressure on. Like you could.
And the thing
Yeah.
is, I couldn't fit it back together. So
You tried to fit it back together.
I tried to, I couldn't. And then Andre and Mo stepped
Andre-
in.
So there was this bench, as you have in this.
Did you watch even a YouTube video how to put knee back on?
It wasn't really the time of jumping to YouTube for
No.
stuff like this, but we probably should have done.
Yeah.
But yeah.
probably should have just gotten medical help.
First option, and then the second one is YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
I sat behind Chris, sort of locked him in. So I hugged him from behind, locked him in, and I was like, Andre, like grab his foot, the one that's dislocated,
Pull it?
and pull it. And Andre,
I wasn't pulling hard enough. I was afraid to pull too hard to do more damage. And in the end, we switched places, and we basically grabbed one end of Chris each and
we
kind
gave
of pulled
Chris a
him
little,
apart.
little piece of cloth to like bite on.
and you didn't call medical help at any
See,
point.
this sounds like something out of a movie, but this
Yeah.
actually happened. It's actually making me feel quite awkward remembering it, to be honest with
So,
you.
so wait, you didn't call medical help at any point?
No.
You'd be like, we got this.
We-
Chris, bite on this cloth piece.
Nicola was standing
We are
behind.
two back-end
and she
engineers.
was
We can
stressed
fix a
out.
leg, no problem.
Yeah, she was worried.
She was very worried. So then we swapped places, and I pulled, and then it clicks, and then like Chris like kind of like gets knocked out of the pain,
Yeah,
the
nice.
relief of it,
Yeah.
and then the knee blew up, and then we put ice and whatnot.
Ice and ibuprofen and
We went to find you knee braces.
Yeah.
We did find you knee braces, actually.
And were you able to walk?
eventually, yeah. I had to suffer through gags about not being able to run fast enough if the bears got us. So I suffered through that
we
for the
were
rest of
friends
the
of the
weekend.
But like,
We were good
There were
friends
some
too.
positives.
Yeah. Positives were
For
that
us,
they
it
would
was
make
amazing.
it.
so okay, so you perform a pretty difficult medical procedure without
Without a medical license, no.
Yeah. Or anesthesia.
I've done
or
it before, in fairness.
Oh, okay. So you were a
I've done it
pro.
like 6 or 7 times
Yeah,
before.
that's what we thought. Okay, let's switch around because Mo's done it before.
Oh, so but it's
Yeah.
nice
Not
of
to
him
me,
to let
never
you
to me.
go
Not
first.
to Chris.
Never to me.
Yeah, I
As
don't
a
know
rookie.
why did we have
And
me
just-
go first?
Because I was like, I'm gonna hold him because I know he's gonna be in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So just Andre, like, it's just pulling a straight
Yeah.
line. He's gonna pack it like
Yeah,
this.
just pull his knee in a straight line.
Yeah, like how hard can it be? Okay, but it's nice that you let Andre go first. And so hold on.
Got some
okay.
experience, yeah.
So you basically are crippled now, and there's 1 week left. That was a nice little break that you had.
That was
the only break.
We had just over 3 weeks after that.
Just over 3 weeks to YC demo day.
And you were able to walk, or
I was able to walk.
just walk it off.
I just did basically over time walk it off. Yeah, to be honest with you, I was good enough for demo day.
You were limping the first like 2
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
But the pain was there. You couldn't like sort of lift his leg to put on the other leg. That was gone. And then we came back 3 weeks after we came back from YC. You had a surgery.
Long story really, but I ended up having a bucket tear of the meniscus.
Of meniscus.
Yeah,
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not the worst, but yeah, I had to have a little op on it in the end. But that was Y Combinator.
So and the final presentation, how did that go at Y Combinator?
I think demo day went well. I mean, we got, I think it was 13 or 14 meetings out of it, because what happens is investors who register interest who've seen your pitch on the day can basically request to schedule meetings.
Yeah.
So we had quite a good amount of investor interest. We just were not very good as techies at pitching. And so our follow-up meetings, we struggled to sort of impart sort of the size of opportunity, shape of the market, how we were going to address bits, because we were still figuring it all out, right?
This was before the business pivot actually to open source.
Exactly.
So you actually had a wrong thesis at that
Exactly.
And also
Yeah.
remember, this was pre the Unity IPO. So people didn't think that gaming businesses or like gaming tool businesses could IPO.
point. Yeah, because every game
Games
company at
companies,
that point.
sure.
Yeah.
But game tools,
It
not
was
so
the
much.
time when money was free and everybody was building their own internal tools.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
worth their
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
I think we also experienced firsthand how trends in investment would affect the availability of investment, right? When we were pitching, most investors, or it seemed that way to us, obviously, subjectively, most investors were looking to invest in either biotech or weed companies.
At the time, yeah.
That's what
In
was
our-
fashionable at the time,
yeah.
or kind of hot.
It was that moment,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of weed companies
In Y Combinator?
in the batch, but also generally at that time because of the
legislation was changing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
the relaxation of the
Which is absolutely fair play, but it means we were fighting for a smaller slice of available capital, right?
Guessing where your users come from? That's so 2010. AppsFlyer is like having a cheat code for mobile marketing. Pinpoint attribution, real-time insights, and analytics that actually make sense. Stop flying blind and start flying smart. AppsFlyer, because your data is your best co-op partner.
Attention app and game developers. Are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before. Track global trends across app stores. Analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies. And benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is sensortower.com.
Okay, so Y Combinator, it's demo day. The audience is mainly investors. And they look at these presentations and they earmark the companies they want to talk to. So that leads to meetings with follow-up investors, because Y Combinator puts in a small amount and then basically there's a markup as if anybody else invests. So you get 13 meetings and
No
what's the-
follow-
no hole.
no follow-up. we did when we were shifting the model to open source, when we felt like it was both a large gambit, biggest risk, but also we thought it would make sense into the way we brought the game tech to studios. We flew back out. We went out we stayed in an Airbnb in East Palo Alto, no Lake Tahoe this time. And we interviewed, we went to pitches with
Capital.
With many different firms then as well, basically. So twice we've ended up spending quite a lot of time with quite a lot of investors, speaking to those investors about sort of opportunity size, market sizing. Had two really phenomenal conversations. One was with the guys at Kleiner Perkins, Bing Gordon, creative director, ex-creative director of EA at the time. The other one was Ryan Floyd of Storm Ventures. He was awesome. They both did this, actually, sat down with us in our individual meetings, and we spent like half an hour with a cup of coffee, and it felt like we were getting advice about how to win the market rather than impress me. Which was quite refreshing, actually.
But they didn't turn into an investment.
So it was funny. At the time, Kleiner Perkins, Bing said to us, if you can win a Zynga, then we'll put money into you guys.
At that point, that was one of the biggest gaming companies. No, actually, they were going through some hard times. They were making the pivot from web.
They were making the pivot from web to mobile first, but they were still, still phenomenally.
A contender.
Yeah, powerful, still are a phenomenally powerful live services games company, right? Really, I think what he was trying to allude to is if you can figure out how to win in build versus buy, because you just mentioned it yourself, right? Studios raised a ton of money, they build a team out, and they build tech, right? And what he was saying is if you could provide technology in a way that would be more flexible for those teams to not build and buy instead, then we'll go in.
And what year was this?
2017? 2016.
This, Mark Pincus is probably the CEO at that point for the second run. Bing Gordon, Mark Pincus are close, so naturally it makes sense that he would propose
maybe
to
top
get
of
Zynga.
mind. Yeah, maybe top of mind, yeah.
Yeah, and then also because he has full visibility in that company, so he can hear how that pitch went, what went, decisions. So basically, Zynga does due diligence for him. Smart.
Yeah. So his words were, if you can win a Zynga, right? And then we moved into open source, and then we did win Zynga as a customer, right? We landed Zynga as a customer. At the time, it was part of the Advanced Technology Group, ATG Group. They were experimenting with emerging games platforms, and they were looking for tooling that would allow them to rapidly experiment with emerging games. And then we kind of moved from there. We're now in, 8 different games, something like that, in Zynga Studios, across SF, Gram Games, right, which they bought, which we were working with before they bought them. Guys at Rollick, a lot of different studio teams.
Take-Two Mobile, essentially.
Yeah.
The last impression that he left us, this is Bing, as we were in the office, chatting through sort of numbers, chatting through where we can go. Again, to reiterate, this is pre-IPO of any company as such. It was like, look, the road that you guys are in, and Chris, remind me of the exact phrasing, the road that you're in is...
It's a graveyard.
Is this, full of skulls of the previous dead companies.
Of game tech companies that haven't made it, either from an analytics tech perspective or an ad tech perspective or even a game backend.
I could give many shout outs too.
His exact words were, it's going to be a difficult journey because it's a graveyard.
We went in kind of optimistic. We've just gone to open source. We're going to see Bing. And then we came out
Man, it was good though. I haven't forgotten it.
I have not neither.
It was a good moment, but it was I guess a grounding kind of moment. Yeah.
He didn't pump you up.
Yeah, he spoke to us frankly. It was it was a real piece of advice. Yeah.
Which is rare from many VCs.
Yeah. They either tell you what they think you want to hear until you leave the room, or they're looking to be impressed and not have a real conversation.
And remember, at this point, we've had, during the YC dinners on every Tuesday that we had, the alumni would come in and talk about their own startup stories, from the Airbnb guys to 23andMe, and there's a lot of Dropbox. Yeah, a lot of them came, and so we had heard the stories that you don't really hear in the media from the founders directly.
The journeys
in a sort of an enclosed space, in a trusted space. So knowing how some of the investors could be, how they've been treated in the past, and how Bing was to us, or the other folks that Chris mentioned, was a refresher. It was actually really, really nice of them to tell us these things in a very genuine manner.
What I wanted, then kind of the question I wanted to ask is being a founder means that you're always on. And so once you start landing these deals and you're still a very small company, what was it like to start scaling? Because like when you went to open source, you essentially found a product market fit, right?
I would say so.
So that was like 3-4 years after the
That's
funding.
about 3 years in, I think it was.
Yeah.
3 years in.
So 3 years in
2017.
after founding the company, the only investment you got is essentially the
The Y Combinator investment.
Y Combinator.
And then we had some early customer revenue. Yeah.
So basically a tiny check.
Yep.
And then other than that, just self-funded. Took you 3 years. Everybody tells you, well, not the most important people tell you this is a graveyard. You're most likely going to die. But if you land one of the biggest clients in the business, you will survive. Thanks. Like that kind of figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, what they're essentially saying is we'll invest when you no longer need investment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, land the biggest customer and come talk to me.
Yeah.
So you do that, you land it, you have the business model, and now you're working. And you're working with multiple different studios. And as you mentioned, there's Turkey, there's the US-based studios all over the world. Did that intense phase of Y Combinator continue after Y Combinator as we were scaling, or were you able to be more measured and more professional in your ways of working?
I don't think it really changed for,
not for
quite
a
a while.
while.
Because remember, when we realized we were in the wrong, our technology was distributed in the wrong way, we ended up rebuilding it from the ground up. And so when we rebuilt it from the ground up, we basically put ourselves into an intense phase all over again. In fact, part of what we were building was being built when we were in Palo Alto, going to see investors again. It's almost like we'd repeated the process again for ourselves when we went out a second time. I think we just accepted we were sort of working in an atypical way, just to try to make sure that we could find the right fit for studios. Yeah.
What was it? 18-hour shifts, pretty much. Continued for a long time, multiple years after. And so to keep that going, plus to keep our personal life and wives and families members happy that we were working this hard, we took kind of like Lake Tahoe trips, if you want to call it that way, to other parts of the world.
Without the injuries. I mean, they have you for medical help.
No, so I think that
unlicensed
story, that
physician.
part also carried on a little bit.
Yeah.
We worked in crazy places. We've done things that not a lot of other companies would do.
Because you can't disconnect. That's the thing with
Yeah.
being a super
We never
like,
did.
tech
So
company.
even when we were building out the team and the team was growing, we were still the most senior of core engineering, right? Even as the founders. So most of the early tech was built by us. So the people who were fastest able to fix or change or modify or extend any piece of it to fit what a studio needed was going to be one of the three of us. And so it did mean that we were effectively always on call.
And also that led to like very, very cool scenarios. Like when I was in Portugal traveling, I met Simon, who's now one of our earlier hires that we've had. And he's been with us the entire time and we love having him. And it just happened that I ended up meeting him when I was in Portugal.
We were a remote working company from the start, so it gave us this deep flexibility to just be wherever we needed to be. But it did also mean we never disconnected. Yeah.
And so when you went out on the holidays, when, at a scaling phase, like you all three traveled still together, like you essentially have been together for 10 years, like every day.
mostly,
Yeah,
yeah.
then we were best friends, right?
Yeah.
So that's
That wasn't-
foundationally where that is coming from. We did travel to Bali.
Yeah, we did Bali and the Gili Islands.
where
we did.
Stupidly decided to go in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And well, he didn't say yes to that. He stood back. He was a clever guy. Yeah. He still is.
No, the problem is that they went out to see the sunrise, like
We didn't realize
4 in the morning.
what that exactly entails.
Yeah, on a boat.
Yes.
It wasn't a boat,
It was a canoe.
It was like a canoe with a little
but in the
motor at the
Indian
back.
Ocean.
But it was
Okay.
4 in the morning. Now I skipped that because I'd had a 2 a.m. call with a customer,
Yeah.
so I was
It was
asleep.
it was that kind of it was
I had a 4:30 call, so I said I might as well get up. So I did a 4:30 call, and then we left. Like I took my passport with me. I thought like, are we gonna go somewhere like some type of civilization is there that might need my passport? So I took everything. I took my camera, everything. They go and it was a canoe, like literally like wooden pieces
Yeah.
of We sat in that and dark. We didn't see what we were doing.
You were waiting
And-
for the sunrise.
Yeah.
Yes, but I thought we were going to end up like it was going to be a boat and we're going to end up in like some sort of island and we're going to have breakfast. And no. We, in the dark, and I don't do well with sea either, we sat there, we got utterly wet.
Yeah.
And-
as one does.
As
in
one
the
does
ocean.
in a canoe.
in the ocean.
In the canoe, I have pictures, I send you so to see it, but it wasn't a good experience for me. And we, I thought that was how I'm going to go.
Oh, that again? There's something with boats in you guys.
It might be the case. Yeah.
But Andre, they always throw you at every problem, like, right?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I don't know how I can solve them drowning.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd try and have me fix that one as
He
well.
was eating and I couldn't. I don't know how he
So
was.
I used to do schoolboy rowing, so the shake of the boat, the tilt was not a problem at all. I was just hungry. It was
I was
good. It was
throwing
good
up and he
breakfast,
was
to be
eating.
honest.
Mo was massively seasick, and Chris was just, there's photos of him just having breakfast in the boat.
So what is it like to be always
This
on?
is our
Because this is
relationship,
kind of, crazy for many people, is that even when you get a chance to go on a beautiful vacation, take your spouses and you go to Indian Ocean, and even like going to see a sunrise, you'd be like, I got a call coming up at 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. What's it like to be in that sort of an on-call life?
It's not for everyone. We made a conscious trade-off because, as Chris said, the team was still growing. We were still the most senior engineers and had the most knowledge of basically all the areas of our products. We couldn't step away completely, even for a week or two. So we were always on, as you say, and it was a trade-off basically. In some ways, it was also a privilege to be able to work from anywhere, but it means if you travel away from your home time zone, then suddenly calls that were at reasonable hours are not so much anymore.
And you couldn't postpone them or anything. And when you take the calls, do you say, "Hey, I'm in"?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No,
So
we-
what
no,
do
we
you
didn't.
say when you're like, I'm not going to turn my camera on because
I blame
Bandwidth problems.
bandwidth
Yeah.
problems.
Low
blame British
bandwidth.
Telecom quite a bit.
Yeah, British tele.
Look, the thing is, the way we saw it, and I don't disagree with this, is that we were a remote working company. The studios we worked with knew that, and they knew that we would always put everything we needed to put in to solve whatever problem they were having.
And we
so
did.
where we were when we were doing that, we didn't believe it should matter. And we did always solve the problem that we needed to solve.
As long as the tech was working, the games were, moving along smoothly, players were happy.
I think it also did influence quite a bit how we built the technology, because you have to build in a particular way where there isn't anybody else who wakes up at 3 a.m. to look at the issue. It's one of us that will, especially when the team was smaller. It had an extreme impact on the approach to creating the resiliency, the
I think
tech.
even now the team is larger. I think the lessons we've learned is that the buck stops with us. So
Yeah.
we are in the trenches with the team, but at the end of the day, we need to solve the problems for the customer. It means we get up at 3 a.m. and do it.
Even now, but much less so, obviously.
Much less intense.
I think it also did influence quite a bit how we built the technology, because you have to build in a particular way where there isn't anybody else who wakes up at 3 a.m. to look at the issue. It's one of us that will, especially when the team was smaller. It had an extreme impact on the approach to creating the resiliency. Yeah.
And so you've gone through like this period, which is a considerable period, probably 5, 6, maybe 7 years, where you were always on, pivoting the business, going through super stressful periods from like just very intense working period. And you said you were friends before you started this, but what has kind of kept you together? Because the number one reason why startups fail is the founder dynamics. So what has glued you?
We holidayed together. That meant that we could share stories together and reminisce together and sort of draw out some of the best moments that we had, even on this really phenomenally intense journey.
And what do each of you bring to the table? Like from the outskirts, when looking in, like if you're a fundable team, I'm looking at like 3 back-end engineers that are, essentially 3
Didn't
of
really
the
know the
same.
games industry either.
Yeah, who don't have. Well, even that could be like, yes, that's not a plus when you go into a certain industry, but that can be mitigated if somebody's coming from a relevant industry or they're just very passionate about it. But essentially, your skill set is very, very similar. It's not like you have a business person, then you have a tech person, and you have an operations person or something like that, but you're very similar. And the question is like, what do each of you bring to the table that has made this into such a complete team, which from the outside would look like a team that lags certain expertise?
We didn't know what we had as talents as such, right? The sort of the journey of the company shaped us to be who we are, like, to some extent. Like I didn't know how to hire until I hired, and then we hired and we hired and hired. But at this stage, I would say, I think I'm gonna say for the other guys, and then I don't know, you guys if you want to say it about me, I don't know how this question has to be answered, but I think Andre has a depth of attention to detail that I've never seen anywhere else, technical or otherwise. Both of the guys are exceptionally thoughtful. Some of the best that I've ever seen. And we went through YC and we've seen some of the best founders there. And Chris is kind of like out of the box thinker, someone who has seemingly the answers whenever the question comes up.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good
I
summary.
appreciate it. Yeah, good words. As Mo said, to begin with, you're right. 3 engineers, but 3 engineers who had no choice if they were going to make it work, figure out how to lean in one direction or the other, right, and therefore fill the gaps that would otherwise have been expected to be there from the start by an investor, right? Mo leaned into the operations, hiring, and cloud side of things. Andre leaned in as our CTO into the deeply technical side of the problem space. And I leaned into sales and customer success. Yeah. And that just, it meant that we're still engineers. I still think that's one of our greatest strengths, is that all 3 of us are engineers at the very top of the structure when we're building game tech at the end of the day, right?
We can mix in.
So we can mix in into any conversation, both the business and the technology side of it.
And it's interesting because this company is very organic, like in a way that you were friends, you wanted to do this, you came up with this, then you pivoted towards your success. Oftentimes, especially in the recent era where we had this sort of like everybody was after VC money and VCs were the king for about like a 10-year period in gaming. And everybody was kind of modeling their business to be venture capital fundable.
Yep.
And so that led to almost like the pop stars approach.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to build the best pop
Best
star
thing that can
team.
be funded.
Yeah, best team that can be funded. And yours is team that wasn't able to get funding.
Yeah.
Which is interestingly enough, but it was still successful.
Yep.
I think because we went down the substance of it.
Yeah.
Rather than
You built a company.
Yeah, we became successful the only way that I think we could have become successful, right? We leaned into the product, the sales, and the organic operations of the company.
And the perseverance.
Yeah. We didn't really have a choice there. It's not like we thought that was the best way. We
didn't know what the best way was.
We didn't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It was either that or nothing.
But you had a choice. The
Nothing.
choice is but it's
choice
not
is
nothing.
to bail out, is what you're saying. Yeah.
And
You're right.
How come did you stay for such a long time on this mission and weren't like, you know what, guys, this is not going to work out. Most of the companies die in gaming tech. It was a good try. We had fun. Chris almost lost his leg.
He almost died in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
and other stories that were. Anyways, we shall not go too big in the story.
Yes. But like, what kept you together? Because it's so easy to give up as well. And in your case, you would have given up and gone back on working, or maybe started a fintech company that is way more fundable.
Look, the way I view it is that we are almost like a tripod. We lean on each other, whether that's through the emotional roller coaster. Those were one of the YC founders told us, like last dinner, YC was like, guys, whatever you do, it's an emotional roller coaster. You got to check yourselves, check each other, etc. Whether through the emotional roller coaster of building the business, where every week there is some new thing that you hadn't encountered, to the depressing moments, like coming out of bingo, there's a meeting and whatnot. It's the camaraderie that we have.
We could still be friends and not be in what we've built. I think it was just naive stubbornness, right? We refused to give up until we had tried everything that we thought could work. And if we thought at that point that we can't find another way to make it work, then that would be the end of it. Sam Altman had mentioned that at one of the events that we'd attended at one point. Someone in the crowd had asked him at the time, when do you know when to stop? And he said, it's simple. It's nothing to do with funding or revenue or market fit. It's whether or not you run out of ideas. If you can't figure out a way to make it work anymore, you have nothing left to try, then you know it's time to stop. And we had not yet decided that there was nothing else left to try. It stuck with us.
Yeah.
We were stubborn.
It was hard, and being 3 good friends was the absolute best way, I think, that we could have kind of gone through it. But just being 3 of us full stop meant that we could ride out the emotional amplitudes better, right? When one of us was down, the other two were there to help. It was never kind of all of us at once, if you will. There was always some source of optimism within the team.
Do you think you could have done this at later years of your life? Or was part of it being young?
The energy level was definitely being young definitely helped.
Yeah. And not having anything to lose as well, because you haven't. Because like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, then you just go back into industry. You find a way to work somewhere else or build something else. But yeah, I think it definitely helped that we were at that point. But I don't think it changed the sense of we will find a way to make it work. I think we would have been able to do that anyway. Yeah.
Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA and founder of NVIDIA, once said that if founders knew the pain in advance, nobody would ever start a company. So if you could go back and whisper one truth in your younger self's ear, what would that be?
Everything takes longer.
Buy some Bitcoin.
But what else?
Yeah. No, I think Mo's right. It's going to take longer than you think it's going to take. Yeah.
I'd say you're not as prepared as you think you are for the sacrifices, the missed opportunities or the trade-offs, the delay, effectively, that this will cost your life, you know. Because if you jump into this and it's successful right away, no problem. Full steam ahead. But if, like us, it takes a while, then a lot of things might be on hold.
Yeah.
Until you figure this out.
And you were three friends. Were there others in your peer group that are kind of getting their life ahead and forward? They were doing the normal things. They had a job, they were getting paid, they had their first apartment, they bought a car. And meanwhile...
And you'd meet up together, you'd catch up, and you'd find it hard to talk about much because the kind of things that you're trying to do, not very relatable. And you can't speak to the kind of things that everyone else is doing because you're not doing them.
You're not brunching. You're not checking out this new thing. You don't have kids.
And
you're not keeping up with your reading list or movies or TV shows or whatever.
Or
you're not traveling as much.
About, when friends ask me about sort of how's your day been, and I'm like, I was on a call with this customer and this other customer, and we fix this, or like I'm hiring this person from Colombia and this. Like.
It's hard to relate. It's not easily relatable. Yeah.
It's just a weird
phase
part of life that we are in. Yeah. It's not very. But at the same time, earlier on, my wife Sherry would talk to me about like, are we doing the right thing? This other person has just bought their house and look how beautiful it is, and I have to continuously sort of, it affects you.
All you can say is, well, we think we are.
Yeah, it's an investment, and it's like a rocket that you're just putting fuel in to take off.
Did it build doubt when you met people from the outside world, from the real world, that are you on the right path? Because like now at this point, you probably are married and you haven't realized your full potential and not even close. Meanwhile, your peer group is visibly on the track.
Yeah, there was a lot of doubt, always a lot of doubt. There's a large amount of imposter syndrome, even when it's beginning to work. And then before that, there's a vast amount of doubt in whether it's the right way to spend time, right? Because you can't get that back.
I don't think the doubt ever really goes away. It's more you get better at dealing with it.
Yeah.
There's also the doubt of whether this company is the one versus shall I go back to industry? And for me, like going back to industry, getting the job and whatnot, it wasn't like any future that I could imagine did not include me having a job as a regular thing. Between university to starting Heroic, we tried other ideas. This wasn't the first one. This is sort of like where we thought the three of us could fit together really well, because we always try to build companies. We try to build products, irrespective of the market. There's always been like the nagging thing behind the scene to us.
Web stores, you've seen what good looks like, but have you experienced great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform that powers over $500 million in transactions each year for top studios. They're not just another vendor. They're backed by Supercell and built by monetization veterans from Moonactive, Playtika, and other industry giants who understand the difference between merely functional and the truly exceptional. What sets them apart? Deeply personalized web stores with custom design offers, industry-leading monetization features, seamless in-game payment integration, and a robust SDK. While 70% of top-grossing games already have web stores, the ones scaling the fastest are doing it with AppCharge. Ready to transform good into great? Learn more at appcharge.com.
In the game of growth, everyone is looking for that power-up. Vibes is exactly that. It's built by industry people, so they actually get the challenges you're dealing with. As a result, they become the fastest growing gamified rewards platform out there. And the results are kind of nuts. With their AI-powered targeting, you're not just buying installs, you're bringing in the right players. And now they've got this new ROAS optimization engine, so your campaigns basically level up automatically. Vibes is built different. It's designed for growth. And I guess you could say it's powered by good vibes. Check out their DOF exclusive case studies by following the link in the description. And go to vybs.co. That's vybs.co. Share your email and join the waitlist list.
Is it easier to hang out with other founders when you're a founder?
Yes and no. It's hard to know whether when you're talking with other founders, unless you're close, how much of what's being said is real and how much is each other bragging or trying to make each other feel better about the situation. Sometimes it's hard to sit and have a real conversation. That's why I think the Y Combinator dinners, this sort of closed hall type of experience where it was sort of put your phones away, turn everything off, just listen. And this person is going to tell you their real story. You know, even when we were looking back in the day at, you know, TechCrunch articles about hugely successful, just acquired companies, and everything reads like it's an overnight success, right? Everything reads like it took 18 months and then it just went, you know, it just skyrocketed.
Yes, hockey sticks.
Yeah, hockey stick style, and nothing, when you dig into the details, it's rarely, if ever, like that. Yeah.
Also, I think it's hard, for me at least, I don't know about the guys, to relate to other founders because we haven't raised money. So the way you think about running the company day to day and sort of the bets that you make or where you invest is different.
How would Heroic look like had you, for example, raised money from, like, let's say Kleiner Perkins or any of these funds, or Storm
Ventures, yeah.
Storm, but that's a great name.
Yeah.
Storm, I've never heard, but that's amazing.
So I don't know if it would still exist today. I don't think, because we have over time continued to find product market fit. We've never stopped finding product market fit. We don't see it as a tick boxing phase of a company's life cycle. So, you know, you'll find when you look us up that we've got all these other pieces of tech products that we've built out over time that are a direct response to just being in meetings with studios and hearing what the problems are they're trying to solve that takes too much time where it shouldn't. And I'm not sure if we were on the VC train, we would have continued to do that. And therefore, it's possible we would have got acquired by some of the earlier customers that we had, once we were venture capital backed, with somebody in board meetings with us, advising us at that point.
We would have had a different view about where to draw the line, or we may have been forced to draw the line in a different spot. Because obviously when you take on investment, you also take on someone having a say.
But it's a minority case. You would have been influenced.
Yeah.
We would have been heavily influenced.
It would have been the influence. Remember, we didn't know, right?
Yeah.
We were naive founders.
Malleable.
Malleable, exactly. And what we ended up molding ourselves into to solve these different areas of the problem that we said earlier are things that on paper we don't look like we would be capable of solving. We're just three engineers. That's what we molded ourselves to be able to do. How would we have been molded differently with somebody else in the room?
And I think not having the funding makes you really focus on where your revenue is going to come from, what your customers actually need.
Get on the green.
And that's sort of a very harsh reality that you've got to look at. Where is your sort of next bit of food going to come in, essentially?
Rather than chasing the next funding round, which is what VCs naturally want, because you get a markup on their investment so that they can raise another fund.
You basically become a hot potato.
Yeah. So, Andre, you were saying.
Effectively, yes. The guys have fleshed out my thought much better here. It's not the direct say, like it's not someone could come in and tell you do this. It's the influence your allowing them or even kind of inviting them to exert over you because you need their continued investment effectively, right?
And you want their expertise.
You want the expertise. We definitely would have thought, finally, someone who knows more than us believes in us. I think at that stage, that's probably how we would have seen it.
Yeah.
We would have been honored even. And therefore, we would have let that bias us, even in our own kind of thoughts and decision making, where we weren't even like seeking an external opinion. I think we would have almost like pre-influenced ourselves before we even sought advice, and already kind of started by positioning ourselves in that way.
I think the level of in-depth thinking that we have for a product or a problem space to solve it for revenue, to solve it for a customer, it would probably not happen if we had outside money, because we wouldn't have to go, we're like, okay, so what this person believes it must be correct and we're missing something, rather than having to get to the root cause of it. That is a massive change.
So yeah, I think we just wouldn't exist as we are today, or maybe even at all, if we'd taken investment at that stage. Yeah.
And on top of that, I would say we also would have been raising on the SaaS model, and making a big pivot would probably not have been very welcome by our investors, because we're effectively scrapping the product and the positioning that they had invested in.
And then there's nothing wrong. I mean, we're saying kind of funny things about VCs, but they're just essentially two different models. With VCs, the most important for them is growth. And they will fund till eternity if you just keep growing, but you have to be incredibly aggressive towards growing. And then again, what the challenge became is you had to pivot your whole business model and to figure, so you would have grown towards the wrong direction and ended up acqui-hired.
Yeah, and then, so you might have gained adoption.
Yeah.
But how would that have then translated to revenue?
Yeah. It would have been ARR, and then at some point somebody would say, hey, this Heroic Cloud is a pretty nice thing. It's actually essential for us. We're just going to grab this whole company, and that's about it.
Yep.
And then you work for Zynga, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Zynga guys. Yeah.
Yeah, work there. So that's we would have been colleagues at that point. Well, you talked a little bit about we talked about exit right now. So what keeps you going when it's clearly easier to just cash out?
There's a next milestone, but that milestone is purely revenue motivated. And then there is at least 3 or 4. Remember I said to you, if you run out of ideas, then that's when you know you've hit your limit. There's at least 3 or 4 things next that we have top of mind that we'll be tackling. We haven't yet decided which one next. We're actually going to figure that out in the final quarter of this year. But yeah, if we no longer had the idea that we would solve another piece of the problem space next, then we would maybe be thinking differently. But
I think milestone-wise is a good way to think about it. I think we are the stable company that anyone wants.
Most have been sold and kind of disappeared from the market.
Exactly. Revenue is the next milestone that we're hitting, but also expansion to other areas that we think will be quite cool to do.
Yeah, I love that approach, where essentially we'll build as long as we have ideas what needs to be built. And if we don't have any ideas what needs to be built, then we've done building this. And then we can hand it over, because why would anybody need us here since we've done what we're here for, which is building?
Yeah, and at that point, we may no longer be the right people to take it to the next
that's
step.
what I mean. It's like you give it to somebody with a more mature
company. It doesn't mean there's not more in any problem space to be solved, of course, but it might not be. We might not be capable.
Exactly.
Then
it becomes a sales and customers success company, which is a very mature, stable, high revenue, high EBITDA generating, or at least high EBITDA generating business.
Yep.
That's way better approach than we need to hit this weird milestone that we came up with in a seashell.
We don't much more practical.
Yeah.
We would have no choice but to be.
I wanted to ask a question of what's the proudest thing about Heroic each of you feels that no one on the outside would ever even notice?
We've been profitable every year that we've grown, but it's not about profitability purely as a milestone. It's about what that means to the people who are with us on the journey. It's the team that we've built. We are always able to look after the team, right? I'm very proud of the fact that we don't follow some kind of cycle of fire and hire and fire and hire, because we haven't had to position ourselves within funding rounds, and we haven't had to position ourselves along that kind of pathway.
And because you retained your customers.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've been laser focused on really deeply looking after customers. So I'm super proud of the fact that the team that we have with us, we've always been able to look after, and we'll continue to do so. Yeah,
It's a really cool thing to be proud of.
It's funny. That's the same thing that jumped to my mind in a more concrete way when I realized that the younger members of our team were starting to get mortgages and buy their first properties, that we were able to give them that stability, the confidence that, this is not just a flash in the pan. It's not going to disappear any day now. It's something they can rely on and kind of build their lives on.
Two things for me. One is that we don't have any churn from the customers. The only churn that we have is when the customers themselves sort of die. They run out of money.
game studios don't always work, right?
It's understandable churn.
Yeah.
But as them moving away from us because of some dissatisfaction, touch wood, hasn't happened yet. And the second thing is, I was chatting with my wife a few weeks ago, and she said like a lot of companies that she's seen, they don't hire friends. It's like a thing for some reason. Well, we've hired friends. We've hired our friends. We've hired their friends. And in a distributed manner, that helps a lot sort of get rid of the loneliness because we're all over the world. But also, it brings the cohesivity together. So when we do these all hands, once a year we take the team for a week to a location. We play mafia-style games, if you will.
What's that? Please elaborate. Interrogation.
There's no lamp going up. No, it's like
we play a bunch of very well-known board games that allow you to do social deduction and similar.
Yes, yeah.
But the memories of the games carry on for the remaining year. And we have fun. Even if, when they last week a bunch of the guys came over, Caetano and Mihalenko, and we were reminiscing over how the game was played. Even like 2021, where we did the first one, because there is no politics, there is no bureaucracy. We are friends. We are all professional, but also very humane and very friendly with each other. I think it makes working, even at long hours, sometimes what the guys do, I think a lot easier to juggle. And I think that's not something that you see a lot in a lot of different companies.
So like the vibe.
Yeah, I guess the vibe might be one way to put it.
For a younger audience.
Maybe.
I think vibe and then mafia, they don't really go together.
It's a vibe of its style.
Yeah, maybe this sounds a little bit strange. Like instead of being proud of some company milestone or some product milestone or the projects we've worked on, obviously we're proud of all of that. I think for all three of us, this comes from a place of we've each suffered in kind of previous jobs where we were treated as resources, just to be, drained until there's nothing left to give, or bad experiences with kind of management situations where we weren't treated right, or some of the promises that were made weren't kept, things like that. So we wanted to be the very opposite of that across the board.
Yeah, I mean, Michal was my wedding officiant. He works with us.
Wow.
All right, so a whole bunch of the guys came to my wedding. And that's sort of that's the kind of friendship that we have. That's sort of hidden away that you don't really hear about in the industry. Like how can you have to always have your employees different to your. You can't have a mode where they are friends and they care. At the end of the day, they individually care about the products, they care about the company, they care about the customers.
Yeah, there's a fear. So the pros and cons of hiring friends, like there's usually that fear if you bring in friends, they first of all might not be the best for that position, but most importantly, it's like very hard to manage your friends, and that's the kind of like the fear, and that's why people tend to say is like rather bring in people or hire people who you become friends with because they kind of are taken to that position. But it's not rule, and clearly you've done things outside what the normal rule set is and made it work. Yeah. So I just want to say that even though you do it, that's still not the best practice.
Yeah. I think you're right. Look,
don't try this at home kind of thing.
Look, I don't know if any of this would scale to if you're 500 people.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're 50 to 100, I think it can work.
Yeah. Of course, and it's easier to hire friends, and they're kind of vetted, and also
they're all adults.
yeah, and you'd be surprised, but but this is also a very homogenous type of organization where it is a tech organization.
Yeah.
And so that helps a lot because people think the same way.
Yes.
So you are mainly engineers.
Yeah. And remote working means that the team as a whole predominantly favor an autonomous style of working, that everyone in the team knows what they're going to be picking up and working, which means this idea of management and managing people can be, to a lesser extent, forgone in the case of autonomy, right? So
it's a specialist service, like experts organization in a way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Expert service. So it's not like another type of, let's say, a game studio that has a very different set of talents, from artists to engineers to product people
I think
that
you're
have very different ways of solving problems, thinking and approaching things, and that creates a lot of friction.
But that's what you need in that environment, right? Because that diversity of thinking is what powers the creativity that you believe will make a studio succeed, right? So you're right. It's very different. Our place in the industry allows us to be more similarly natured. Yeah.
I just mentioned so that people don't walk away. I'd be like, no, okay, hire friends, start company with friends. Like that seems to be, and then don't raise venture funding. Like these are all things you can do and be successful.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not the primary model.
No. I mean, we've made it apt for the kind of tooling, the kind of company that we built. They're all senior engineers, so they don't have to pretend, essentially. And it works, and homogeneous, as you say.
And to be fair to, the widely accepted model, it's not like we were some kind of rebels that thought, no, we have a better way. We didn't have much of a choice.
You just didn't know.
Actually, all of this really goes back, Mishka, to what we said at the very start, which is that this has emerged organically. It's not as though we went into it with a particular thesis or philosophy about how we'd make it work. Yeah.
With a little pinch of YC advice from time.
Yeah.
And it's also a very engineer approach, because engineers just look at problem, solve a problem one by one by one, which would be a business school approach where you bring in a bunch of benchmarks and start building in accordingly, and everything has to be referenced. And that's why the VC model is that way, because VCs tend to be business people, and they need references, they need benchmarks.
And there's statistical modeling and
one thing that stuck with me at the last dinner with Justin Content ran and sort of came in and I was like, Mo, and I think Andre, you were there as well. And I was like, only hire when you're bleeding. And so we've only hired when we've realized, okay, we do need to we know what to do, but we don't have the time to do it. And we talk to, at the very earliest stages, to our friends. They were like, okay, you know what, this sounds interesting. And then we sort of brought them in and we worked closely with each other. And then that worked, and we sort of chose to replicate that. So hiring very, very, very slowly when you're bleeding is one of the keys.
Because you're not venture funded.
Because
nobody's
I would say even if you are venture funded, you should take that one with you. Hire slowly. But it runs counterintuitively to what the advice is that you'll get repeatedly from your institutional capital.
And also how you raise more funding. Because you show who you've hired, so that seems as attraction. And
of course.
It's a different model. It's based on a hyper growth. And if you're doing a part of the hyper growth, just the hiring part, that's going to be a hyper fast death.
Very true.
But it's, again, different model. And when it's your own money and you run out of money, you don't eat. Then of course you're bleeding already.
Exactly.
It's just how much you bleed. Let me go through rapid rounds and I'll let you go. But I have 2 questions for each of you. So let's start with Chris.
Okay.
Most stressful moment as a founder?
Pivoting, right? We spent 6 months fighting each other over whether or not we should make the change, whether or not we just hadn't given enough time. And I'm glad we did. But it was a real struggle at that point.
Andre, most underrated trait in a great co-founder?
I'm probably going to butcher the quote, and I can't remember exactly who it was. It's something like the ability to go from failure to failure with no loss of optimism.
Ooh.
Sounds
like a naive person, but that's not what you need.
That's why it's underrated.
True. Mo, what's one thing each of you would never want to do again?
I think start a company being cash poor. It makes everything harder to do. Or just that much harder, I would say.
That much more work. Chris, hardest thing to explain to your family about your work?
The
What were you
atypical
gonna
working
say?
hours, yeah, because even when they see it happening, it's sometimes hard for them to accept that that's just part of the kind of commitment that we make to the customer base that we have. So, yeah, I think it's the unusual working hours. Even when they see it, it's hard to accept it. So,
Andre, the nicest thing your co-founders have said or done to you or for you?
Just existing.
Yes.
Don't put words in his mouth.
Yeah. That's a tricky one because we've been through so many things and I've relied on them so many times over the years. It's really hard to pick just one. I think they've just always been there for me, but in a way it's hard to even adequately put into words, that this kind of a unshakable belief that there's someone there for you when it all hits the fan.
All right. And last one, Mo, what's the one sacrifice you made for Heroic Labs that you'd never want your future kids to repeat?
I think maybe not having time for myself, being able to self-reflect more, check myself, being emotionally aware, etc. I think that's required in a high stressful company to be able to be more aware of the actions and the consequences. I would tell my kids at whatever time, if I have one, I don't have any, to basically be able to take an hour or 2 hours a week to themselves and just think through what was the why behind certain actions that they did. Just self-reflect.
Rather than just go,
yeah.
Just go.
for 10 years straight.
Yeah. On adrenaline.
And cortisol.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have said something about fixing people's legs, but yeah. No, you do. Medical degree. Get a medical degree. That's a good one. All right. I just want to say that you guys are fucking awesome. It's been great working with you for the past 2 years. You've supported Deconstructor of Fun and getting to know you as a founding team. It's incredibly impressive what you've built.
Thank you.
Most of the companies we interact, if not all, are venture backed, and you've kind of forced this into an existence and built this amazing company that from the outside may not look like it because it's like backhand tech and BaaS and live ops products and cloud services, not very sexy. But then when you look behind the cover, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast, is like you have an amazing story, very different way of building, very sustainable way of building, and a very interesting way of thinking about business and products and teams and founding and all of that. So it's always a pleasure to have you on. And I hope the audience also enjoyed hearing more about what is Heroic Labs behind the crypto names, products of Satori's and Hero and all of that. So it's a real company with really nice people who build really complicated products so that others can build games much easily.
Thank you. Thanks, Mishka.
Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you. And thank you for listening.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.